Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett. I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church, and this is Danny, my every week guest.
Yeah, you've got such a low budget that you can't get another guest, right?
Yeah,
You're
we're gonna have to talk about my budget.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about your budget and get you a better guest.
But this week, we talked about leadership.
Leadership, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't take a lot of notes.
Mm-hmm.
I was just tired Sunday.
Yeah,
It
it
was
happens.
one of those days.
It happens. Yeah.
But I thought today we could go over what a good leader looks like.
Mm-hmm. So, so in the message Sunday, we talked about first that a good leader is someone who follows, who learns how to follow. One of the concerns that I have in leadership circles that I'm seeing both within the church and even in the corporate and secular world is that young leaders are thrust into positions of leadership way too early. We're seeing a lot of churches that are really struggling with this. They'll have a leader that's young and hip and energetic, and
Like
then
me.
yeah, like you, and they they start to lead a church, or maybe they start a church when they're really young, like in their early mid-20s, and the church is built off of this leader's, enthusiasm and whatnot, and good things happen, but then there's usually some kind of a lapse. Either it's a moral lapse or a leadership lapse or something, and then the church just disintegrates.
Right.
And then it puts a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and it's a bad, I don't know, a bad sign to the community that they're in about Christians, and I really do believe a lot of that has to do with the first principle we talked about Sunday.
Yeah.
That they never learned to follow well. Many of these leaders, not all, but many of them were just kind of thrust into that role, and they really weren't prepared for it.
Right.
And and I think looking back now on my own life, obviously it doesn't matter how old you are as a leader, you're going to make mistakes. But I really appreciate, I guess, the first 7 years or 8 years of my ministry. I wasn't the leader.
Right.
I was a follower on a staff, and that was really good for me. Now the problem is a lot of young people, and even I at that time thought, oh, this stinks. I want to be the person in charge. And let me tell you, now that I'm sort of that person in charge, it's not all it's cracked up to be sometimes.
Right.
And so I've really learned to appreciate more the importance of being a good follower. And of course, you have to follow Christ first and foremost. But I think it also extends to people too. You need to learn how to be a good follower too. So
It made me kind of think, I've heard people say that, for example, like, you should be a CNA before you become a nurse, like things like that. And it's because you can relate to them. And when you're a leader, you need to follow first so that you understand how they're feeling too.
Well, and it may even kind of affect whether you want to be involved in it. One of the other principles of leadership I talked about Sunday was that you want to be a leader, that you want it. Maybe if a CNA, you go and you do it and you're like, this isn't for me.
Right.
Rather than going and getting, I think sometimes what can happen in any field, not just nursing or preaching, sometimes you go off to school, you get the college degree or whatever, and then you're like, well, I have to do this now. I mean, I've invested all this money and all these resources and time into this role, and then you do something you really don't want to do. So I think it makes total sense.
That happened to me. I didn't finish nursing school, and I worked in a medical facility, and then I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't finish school.
Yeah, you saved yourself a lot of money, and you saved yourself a lot of pain and work that would have never been used. And I know of people that's happened to. They've gone off to school and gotten a degree, and then they don't end up using it. And I mean, maybe there probably needs to be more time spent on maybe interning before you work on the degree, not at a lot of times it's at the end of the degree.
Yeah.
And at that point it might be a little too late, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you probably need to do it earlier on. Maybe like you do the first year or two of your prereqs, and then you do a little internship to make sure that's really what you want to do before you do the classes for the actual degree. But anyway, I'm going off topic there. But it is important to follow first. And so, I think that's probably one of the bigger principles
Yeah.
from Sunday. Actually, the main point Sunday was leaders leaders must first follow. We got to be good. We got to follow Christ and grow in our relationship with Christ. And then as we do that, we can be put in a position to lead.
Yeah. This also, another one that challenged me because I'm a life group leader now. So, and I wrote down good leaders want to be better leaders. Because I thought, there's so many things I could improve on being a group leader.
Well, you're not alone in that. I mean, all of us are in that position. I know something that I was thinking about here a few months back is during COVID, I know Travis and I, we haven't been able to go to conferences and whatnot, obviously, because of COVID. And I really do feel like from a leadership perspective, I've gotten a little bit stagnant because I've been so focused on doing triage, with the catastrophe, not really, but, the mess that COVID has brought where we've had to deal with things differently, that I haven't developed myself a whole lot. And so that's something that's one of my goals for the next year is to try to get to a couple conferences and do some more reading and grow in my leadership, because that's what a good leader should do is they should grow and develop.
And you should be good in yourself to lead others.
Yeah. If you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not going to be able to pour into other people.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good point, Shelby.
Yeah. And then the end, just I had the lead like Jesus, follow the Father, servant lead.
Yeah, and servant lead is kind of the simple point in all of this. Jesus was a servant leader. There was a passage I shared, I believe it was from Ephesians, if I remember right, where it talks about how he stepped down from heaven and left the Father's right hand, and he followed the will of the Father to die on the cross, but also to serve us. And if we're followers of Jesus, we want to follow his example. So he was a servant leader, thus we should be servant leaders. And this principle of servant leadership is not just for preachers and leading in the church, it's for society in general. As a matter of fact, there's been a movement out even in the corporate world about servant leadership and how important it is. So no matter where we lead, a family, baseball team, might coach a bunch of T-ballers, whatever it is, we can show servant leadership.
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
I think I related it more to church stuff.
Yeah. No, that's the beauty of the Bible is it's not.
It's just life.
These are general principles for life, period, not just for church or Christians or whatnot. So it was a kind of a neat sermon to end the series off with. I really enjoyed the series.
I did too.
First Peter was a really good book. I'm glad we did it. And now we move into another series.
Yeah. Keep the change.
Keep the change. Yeah, we're going to talk about some financial principles in our lives. And then we're also going to be starting a campaign, a pledge campaign. That'll be a 12-month campaign about trying to lower some of the debt that we have as a church for our ministry center. We've come a long way. We started off with almost $900,000 of debt, and we've now gotten it down into the lower 300s, and we're hoping maybe after this campaign to get it down in the lower 200s. That would be our hope. So we'll talk a little bit about that and why this is important on Sunday. So we'll do this for the Keep the Changes for 3 weeks, and then, crazy to say it, but then we're getting into our Easter series.
And Easter's late, too.
Yeah, and Easter's very late. Yeah, it's April 17th, I believe, this year. So we're in March already.
Stuff.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm really excited for the Easter series, too.
Yeah, it's going to be a good spring here. I'm excited for it, too.
So I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything else.
Okay.
You've done a good job as usual, Shelby.
Well, thanks. I try.
You try. You do a good job.
Thanks.
Although you do need to work harder on getting another guest.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out eventually. Once I get my budget.
That's right. Well, we'll have to work on that for next year.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see you guys next week as we begin the series, Keep the Change.